All right, well, it is officially 6:01. It is October 24th. We are now entering the Charlton Board of Health meeting. All board members are in attendance. And first on the list would be to accept the prior minutes of October 3rd, 2023.
I'll make a motion that we accept the prior meeting minutes from October 3rd, 2023.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so that one passes. Next up for business, we have, is gonna be the Flint Road landfill. Bruce, how are you?
Good, Matt. How you doing?
I was thinking of this, it's been so long that the era has changed. We go from a handshake to a knuckle bump.
Oh, okay.
So, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
That has changed
So
since the
I was
last
trying to
one.
remember when I was walking in here. I remember exactly how to get here out there, the building here, but I just remember how long it's been since I've been.
Yeah,
Since I've seen you. A while.
it's been a long time.
Yeah, a while
Yeah.
out there,
Well,
so-
welcome back.
So out there. So that's,
Yeah. Gary, we'll just kick it off to you. I know basically you're gonna update the board and come up with your concept plan, and so we'll just pass it over to you and go for it.
So I know Andrew has to be out in about 20 after, you said, right?
Yeah.
So I think the most prudent thing to do is why we have Bruce here, go over some of the details, the plans, the concept for the capping, answer some of the questions specific to Bruce, to the landfill capping concept. He's the expert in that. And then if you need to leave, we could talk about PFAS and updates. Really nothing's dramatic has changed on that front, so let's focus Andrew's time. So to get right into it, I have so we've talked,
Want me to hold it back?
You know,
Put
wanna
it
put it on
right,
the
just lay it on the
you
table.
want it on the table?
Yeah,
That
let's
might
lay it on
work.
the table. That might be.
So, just to orient everybody, Flint Road, the cap landfill's back here, 6.5 acres of land. The current topography here is this thing is relatively flat and then drops right off in the back. A little bit of a mound over here, drops off in the back. Probably about a 10-foot mound along Flint Road here. This is the proposed plan to discuss tonight. This plan has a fill of about 30,000 yards,
Roughly, yeah.
plus or minus, of bringing in material to make this work. I'll let Bruce speak to the kind of nuts and bolts of how all this works, and then you guys can ask some questions. This plan is not locked in place, it can be changed. But this is, as Bruce will speak to, probably the most common approach. So I'll leave it at that.
So what we looked at doing here is just developing some volume out there, and just what do you need to cap the landfill? So there's two parts to that. One is there's some grading that has to happen out here. The slopes are, if you walk back there, very steep back there. We want to pull that material back to a more conventional 3-to-1 slope that the town can maintain easily and take care of out there. So there's some just on-site reshuffling the deck chairs to get the material, get the site stable and put the cap in. The second part to it is there's an opportunity to bring in some soil out there. Now you have to bring in some soil just because we need a little bit of slack there to basically make some money for the town out there. And this about 30,000 yards, of net fill out here for soils out there is the volume that this plan shows. Which essentially the highest point in here, it's about in this area, is raising above the existing grade about 19 feet out there. So each of these is a 1-foot contour. So this is 10, 10, 10. So you get an idea of what that's going to be. The way we would go about doing that, and I think, given some of the history in Charlton with doing something like this, is this would be part of a bid package the town would put out. So the bid package would say, I'm capping 6 acres of landfill, I'm gonna do this, all these different items, and then there's an item in there, I'm gonna bring in fill, and how much credit are you gonna give the town for that material out there? So you would award the contract based on that. There's a lot of different ways to get that, we'll get there, with that, once the concept is okay. So the contractor that comes in is going to First of all, he's gonna have a bond, he's gonna have all the sureties that the town would normally expect from a construction contractor out there. He's gonna be on a schedule, liquidated damages, all those kinds of, again, it's gonna look just like every other contract that the town puts out, you know, for construction out there, but he's gotta, you know, he's guaranteeing to bring that material in. The value of that material potentially out there, I just did this for the city of Marlboro, so not, you know, 20 miles east of here out there. They've got $40 a cubic yard roughly net out there. So I'll let you do the math of 30,000 yards, but it's a sizable, it's half your construction project that you have out here in potential value. My guess is your value would be slightly less because it's another 20 miles to get here from Marlboro and things, but out there. And then there's always the market conditions that was there. You know, this would add to the truck traffic, it would add to the duration of the project a little bit. And the process would be the town, essentially CMG, any material that was proposed. I have a site in Boston, I'm digging up my hole here. I have to hire a licensed site professional like Gary to take samples, put together a package, and there's very standard things that this package includes out there. That package would be submitted to the town, and, you know, through Gary. He would look at it and say, yes, you took the right number of samples, the parameters are correct. The biggest thing is you're looking at the site history, you know, what the source site history, you know, what were they doing over there that caused that? Most of the sites that you'll see are old historic fill sites in Cambridge and Boston and Somerville out there. So it's the stuff that they filled in the swamps and the, you know, the Boston, you know, things out there. With, you know, just coal ash and things like that in it that will kick it over a requirement to come here, because when they build a big building in Boston, they like to go down six stories to be able to put parking garages in. So you'll get a lot of that, you know, that kind of material out here, out there. We would screen it so it was structurally appropriate, so you don't have, you know, something that's wet or clayey or whatever there, and could, you know, develop this and not develop a problem for you, you know, down the road, and also not be too wet of a material so it tracks up and down Flint Road and creates a, you know, a problem for the town and maintenance out there. But again, there's a bid contract. I think it's an important difference from the last go around. It's a bid contract as a contractor with all the protections, insurances, everything else that the town has, and you're sort of just sitting there saying, okay, we got a contract, and for every yard that he brings in, we're going to get, you know, $30 a yard out there to make it worth, you know, to make it worth your while to do that. So I think there's some value to that. It's, you know, the cost of getting that is pretty incremental to the project, small to the project out there, but I think it's a value for that out there. Again, it's not the wholesale raising this to the, I mean, we could go up even higher in the middle here. We wanted to leave a plateau here for just access to different, you know, parts of the site. And we also wanted to grade this site so you don't have the extensive steep slopes that are just hard to maintain out there. This is all open channel, stormwater, very conventional, you know, kind of cap. Not looking for a lot of variances, but we know the town is gonna end up sort of owning this down the road, and, you know, again, you're gonna end up mowing it and doing all the same things you're doing on the site, you know, the newer landfill out there, so it just would do that. Again, one other thing, we're gonna do a couple different cap alternates, let the contractor pick which one works best. They both work equally well for your perspective out there, but a couple, you know, sort of alternative caps, just so they can say, hey, I've got a good deal on this material, or I got a source of sand, or whatever it is, they can, you know, they can build that into you so you get the best bang for your buck as far as the cap goes out there. So I'll stop on I just want to talk about the volume a little bit first, and then, you know, if there's any questions on that, I can talk about some other things we've wanted to cover.
I have a question. Bruce, you said it was a 19-foot maximum elevation increase?
Yes.
And is that from the existing, or is that from here to the?
No, it's from the existing point in here.
The
goes up like-
existing grade, which is
Okay.
already, you know, there is a slope along this road.
Yeah.
So it's not from the road, it's from the existing
Right,
grade.
okay, because I'm seeing 740, 50, 60, 70.
Yeah,
80.
Right now, you have a significant slope here already.
Right,
This,
right.
the only part that people are gonna see is this front.
Right,
Down here where the current gate's about here, it's gonna be almost flush here
okay.
because of the way that the Flint Road
Right,
pitches
I know,
downward.
yeah,
So it comes,
yeah.
so we need to get the stormwater over to here. So the steep, this face will be the longest face in here. And this is about, it's not half the steepness of the slope in the other landfill, but it's about a third less steep than the other landfill is, doesn't
yeah.
meet current. You gotta get
Yeah, no,
variances to make
it's
that
the
work.
variances and things to get
Yeah,
that to
this,
work out
this
there.
is not gonna be that steep.
Right, right. So to give you an idea, it's about 20 feet high, long, it's, it's step back from the road, obviously we don't start the slope right at the edge of the
Right.
pavement. They're step back from the road because there's a sort of stormwater swale
So
ditch
20
that
feet
goes on.
deep, right, and
Yeah.
then, you're right, nobody's gonna see this is about a 50-foot drop from the
Yep.
plateau down here.
Yep, and it's already probably a 35, 40-foot drop
Okay,
back there
all right,
too,
okay.
right there, so it's more to match into that out there.
Right now, it's about a 1-to-1 slope. If you fall off the back of this, you're falling 30 feet.
Oh, jeez.
This would be, not that anyone's gonna be here, it's gonna be secured, but it's a,
Yeah, there's about 4,000 or 5,000 cubic yards of just moving stuff around to get the slopes to be stable at 3 to 1 out there. Again, we could do something more conventional, but then you're stuck with dealing with 1.5 to 1 slope and things like that, which, again, it's just harder to deal with, and it's a little harder to get through DEP out there at that point. But again, it's not, generally, conventionally, you want to go to a 3 to 1 slope, which is what we'll be holding out there with the, except for the edge of the swale. Go ahead.
Well, so one last question, because even though I work with figures, let's assume $30 per cubic yard, and you said about 30,000 cubic, so that's
About that.
$900,000?
$900,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that would
I
obviously.
mean, the
help
credit in
with-
Marlboro is a comparable, it's about $1.2 million out there, the credit to the contractor that they awarded
Yeah.
out there. Now, their project is a $4 million, $4.5 million project minus that 1.2, so it's a much bigger project
Yeah.
than this is. It's fields, it's irrigation, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on there. So it's a much bigger project out there and things. The only thing I would caveat is that number is very economy driven out
Right.
there, so
Sure.
it's, because obviously, yeah, I mean,
Ballpark,
if there's right now, there still continues to be tons of construction in Boston, Cambridge, Somerville's crazy out there, but there's tons of construction, so that price still maintains up. That could drop a little bit there, but in that case, you would do an evaluation, you bid it, and you say, okay, we're only getting, we're not getting nearly what we thought, it's not worth the headache. Let's just drop it and reconfigure it and go back out to bid and get a price just to cap the landfill out there.
Thank you. One last thing, I do feel good that this is only going up at 20 feet
Mhm.
to anybody that's driving by, or some of these, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses that are very close proximity across the road, is that, I guess
yeah,
it's
there's
5.
another one.
Yeah, so,
There's 6, okay.
These are the closest, these are pretty well hidden, these are up on a hill. So the landfill would be about level with their yard,
Right,
which is, now they see treetops, so see, it's not a big
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
all right, I'm done, thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, there's a question, yeah. So that's a big item we wanted to cover today. So we're in the process of moving forward with, finalizing the set of plans and the permits for DEP. I think we're gonna talk about the schedule out
Yeah,
there.
we do,
I want
Go
to
ahead.
jump
Oh,
in
yeah,
there,
sure,
please.
you go.
Yeah. So just from like an environmental point of view, right, because the bottom of this right now is rubbish and it's on virgin ground, or who knows what's below there, if it was a burn dump or whatever, but. So the question that I just wanted to talk about out loud was, right now we have for a better lack of terms, let's call it a sponge of garbage in there, okay?
Yes.
And as we introduce all this weight on there, environmentally, are we going to be pushing out contaminants and making things below ground? And are we making this project worse than it already is? Or is the environmental risk of introducing all that weight not a factor?
I've done a bunch of these kind of projects where you put, basically either move waste or put waste on top. I've never seen the groundwater data, get horribly bad 6 months later. Give it some time to get to work its way out there. I've never seen it get horribly bad.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, capping though, what it does is it keeps any water from infiltrating in, and the soil acts as a cap too out there. So it will drop the groundwater table. So right now, there's probably a slight mound underneath here from just infiltration out there. That would drop the groundwater table, and over time, in a landfill like this, which I assume is just it was a wet area, and they just came off Flint Road and said this is a good place to back the truck up out there. So I think over time that drops, and you'll see the groundwater quality start to improve out there. And I think that's what you've seen at the other landfill over time.
Yeah, I
too.
can speak to that. So the other landfill, essentially the same thing. They put 50 feet of material on top of that one. Just in general terms, the PFAS numbers around this landfill are in the 400 to 600 range. The PFAS numbers around the cap landfill are in the 100 to 200 range.
And that's the newer landfill, which you'd assume has, the waste has higher,
Should have more.
PFAS.
Yeah, this landfill stopped being used in 75, 78. PFAS didn't really come into being till being in the environment until the 60s, really, 50s to the 60s. Very prevalent till 10 years ago. So the new landfill should have more PFAS in it than this one. And the concentrations here are 2 to 3 times higher
Yeah.
than over there.
That's what I found is generally you'll see these compounds, organic compounds, they'll start to drop off. Or if they're, if you had a really, particularly at a high level, a lot of these old landfills have very low levels before you cap them, and statistically, it's really not a difference out there to take a look at that and things like that. So I haven't seen that, sort of squeeze aid. I think somebody at a public meeting once called it that, like that kind of that concept out there. That's played out that it gets terribly bad for a year afterwards, and then obviously that would work its way out and stabilize itself out there.
Okay.
So
So if you don't have
Yeah.
other specific questions on this, just to keep you moving here. So we're dangerously close to meeting the requirement for the submission of the next report, which is November 5th, the DEP. However, when we did our test pits, we did determine that unfortunately the waste comes right to Flint Road in many locations. We did test pits within a foot of the road and we still had landfill debris. So we've talked to DEP about it a little bit. Actually, we got an email from Greg Root today.
literally
shocking.
at 4:30 today.
Yeah, timing was weird.
Yeah.
So one of the questions, concerns is how do we deal with that from a capping perspective? That's not a big deal. The bigger concern is landfill gas. We have to test landfill gas, methane. We have to look at the LEL, the lower explosive limit, see if there's health risk associated with that. Your other landfill has 7 landfill gas monitoring points around it. We test those. If they get to a certain level, it's not necessarily a high level, it's a level where the lower explosive limit works, oxygen, everything meets together and it works. There's a notification requirement to DEP within 24 hours, and you have to do certain things. So we have no landfill gas monitoring in this landfill because it was never done. If the waste was 20 feet in, we'd feel pretty confident that there's not going to be any gas coming across the road. We don't know that. So what we're thinking about doing is putting in the landfill gas monitoring points along the road now. Get the data, incorporate that into the plan so the DEP's on board with us so that we don't come back to anybody later and said, oh, we have migration, because Bruce can design a mitigation trench in here if he needs to pull those vapors back. However, it's very, very expensive. So we don't want to design it if we don't need it. And if we put the points in, we can get the data and we can know if we're going to need
And
it.
you have time between now and November 5th?
No.
We're going to ask for an extension.
We're gonna ask for an
Okay.
extension
Oh,
after
okay.
that, so I mean, the bigger, again, Flint Road right now has no, so the biggest issue with landfill gas is it gets into a subsurface utility catch basin or water line or, something like that. There's no subsurface utilities in Flint Road, there's no catch basins, no drainage, no water, no sewer. But there may very well be in the future out there. So what we don't wanna do is leave you with a landfill that's capped and you've got gas problems under the road, and now we're going back and rehabbing the cap. I mean, just recycling this. So it's better. I think it's better off to take a couple of months, step back for a couple of months, and request an extension from DEP, and just get that information. Get a little bit of that information, and then we can make a decision about how to move forward out there. We're good out there. So
Do you need us to take action on that comment right now, Gary?
No.
Because I don't really need to think about it
I don't
myself. I feel like it's the right thing to do. It's part of the project. I'm on board
I
with
think
it.
what's relevant here is, and we've literally been, we got a typo in there, but if everything went along with the current time schedule and we submitted in November 5th with DEP's reviews and everything, you should be going out to bid in June of 2024, starting construction July or August, September 2024. If we push this out, probably be going out to bid in September of 2024, starting construction November, which is fine as Bruce's comment is, the best time to bring all this material in is winter anyways, so it doesn't affect anything.
How about the survey points at the street? Do we have to get that
We have to
figured
get
out
that, we
first?
still have to get that resolved too, and that's, I need to communicate.
Would that be prior to the gas wells?
No, we can do them together.
Okay.
They all kind of link together, and Bruce and I, we may actually do gas points on both sides of the road right now. Get them in, get them taken care of. Even if if we wanted to put some on some of the properties, we could certainly ask, and easy enough to get an access agreement just to put a gas point in. It's protective of the homes. So I think I've got a relationship with a bunch of these people. I think we could get 3 or 4 on the other side of the road if we needed to. Very easy. I can work with you, legal, to take care of that. But yeah, I agree. We think it's the appropriate thing to do.
Makes sense
We
to
need the
me.
information.
Yeah, I just don't wanna leave you hanging out there and the waste comes.
You good?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yep,
I'm good.
great.
I'll follow up with you afterward anyway on that stuff.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
So I think it just it protects you from, something coming up down the road that's just gonna be hard to, so, if you get gas in one of these utilities, 5 years from now, they rebuild Flint Road, they put water, they put sewer, whatever down that, and we get gas in one of those utilities, it's just a major heartburn. It's something I think we wanna take care of now, because frankly, when there's waste that close to the road, it's a decent chance that we're gonna find gas in there. Now, the waste that was there in those test pits was ashy by and large, so it was the old burn dump. So we may luck out there and things, but you think about now the gas is sort of comes up and it goes through the surface of the entire landfill. Put a cap on it, it's going to go sideways and out. So I think it's
We're gonna
something
have
we
vents
want
on
to
the
be sure.
top. We'll have gas vents up here, but, it's
Yeah.
the shortest route.
Sure.
So if there's some gas right by the road, it may go this way versus that way.
Yeah. So I think I think it's smart to get some data, get some information, close it out. And again, if it costs you a couple of months, 2 or 3 months or something, that's not the end of the world out there, because I think ideally waste relocation in the winter is much better, because people's windows are shut if there's any kind of odors, and they can just move the material around fairly easily. It's not wet, it's usually a better working surface out there, and they can start bringing some of the soil in to sort of grade the site off and things. So.
I remember the cherry misters we had remember up at the other landfill, not ours, but another one in town.
Yeah.
The odor was pretty rough, and they, it was just an expense and another whole procedure. But they installed cherry misters that to try and help it, and that was almost as bad as the actual smell itself. But
The sweet cherry was worse than
it showed good faith in trying to resolve a problem,
Right.
whether
So
it did or
the
didn't.
rotten eggy kind of stuff. I'm familiar with that.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, winter's ideal. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's gonna be out there having a barbecue on a Saturday. And again, old waste, they can tend to control the odors as long as you don't leave a huge open area out there and stuff like that. The other issues, an active landfill, recently placed waste, it's really actively producing gas, in hydrogen sulfide in particular. Hydrogen sulfide's got a very short life. The bugs that eat that generate hydrogen sulfide are long dead in this landfill out here. But you could get again. You dig into an old area, you sort of release a pocket of something out there, but we'll have contingencies in there. Again, it's a lot better under your control, because there's going to be a contract document, there's going to be controls in there, responsibilities of the contractor, oversight. It's a much cleaner way of doing, it's a conventional way to do it, do one of these projects out there. So 2 other sort of other side things. So we'll request an extension, and we'll talk about that a little bit there, and we'll out there. 2 other things. We because of the way the waste, pretty much it's a 6+ acres property. The landfill is about 6 acres, just under 6 acres. So the only place that's really available for a stormwater basin is down in here, out there. So we just laid this out preliminarily, and we're starting to do the design calculations, and it's just not big enough. So we're going to want to move in this direction and expand it a little bit here. Town owns, this is a town property that's associated with a newer landfill out there. Obviously, there's a road in here, there's a pathway in here. We would still leave some kind of available access, down through here. But this may actually go over onto the other town property out there, just to get the sizing that's required by DEP, and not. They're really, you can see whether all these lines. That's slopes, so there's really nowhere else to put it out there, you know, it's out there, unless we go onto somebody else's property, there. The two other things we noticed, there's a little bit of waste that's down in that area that goes onto the abutters property. Our proposal is to, we identified during the test pit program, our proposal is just to dig that out and flip it back onto your property, and he's done with that out there. And then the other thing to note is the gate, as Gary mentioned, is somewhere in here.
Yeah, it's right about here now.
Yeah.
It's gonna probably come down.
Yeah, we're gonna move it down there and build it in, because it's just less of a slope to get up, you know, out there, so you're coming in, you know, so, and again, I think it's,
It's actually a better line of sight on Flint Road as well. You've got better line of sight to
Yeah.
the north.
yeah, and it's not that you're gonna be going in and out of there, it's not like there's gonna be constant traffic in and out of there, but when you're doing your mowing, doing your maintenance, doing your monitoring, you know, I think it's just makes sense to push it down to that side of the site, so you know, we can, again, we haven't graded in the road here and things like that, it's more of a concept plan there, but
There'll be
we'll
kind
create
of
a little,
access parking spot.
yeah, yeah.
The other thing we briefly talked about, we don't need a definitive answer, is we are required to restrict access to this to some extent. The other landfill has a gate, and it's not fenced because there's a gate and it's pretty far off the road. A fence would be the easiest way to restrict access here, but a fence is, number one, right on the road. So a fence is difficult, expensive, hard to maintain, and it's in the landfill. So it would have to be done with ballast blocks and all kinds of baloney. So we talked about, kind of like the other one has just a bunch of boulders at the toe of this slope. This slope will be, for lack of a better word, kind of an attractive nuisance. Kids are gonna be trying to ride quads up it and four-wheelers, and so we do need to restrict access. We haven't figured that out completely yet, but we're looking at a couple options. We'll come back to you guys.
I like the boulders.
I think it's natural, it'll look more natural, and you can let it, you know, you unfortunately can't plant trees or have any woody vegetation here. It's gotta be mowed and maintained, but we can put some wildflower grasses up here so it has some attractiveness
find
to
some
it.
nice, yeah.
And then we could put the boulders in here to keep vehicular traffic out.
Would a berm be a bad idea with water flow and that potential gas vent?
So we're gonna have, there's an existing, you've seen the existing berm that the town maintains there.
The swale?
There's a little swale.
Yeah.
So that swale's gotta stay, and our gas, our liner may actually go under that, depending, in certain areas, and
Yeah.
that swale will be put back. And then 10 feet off the road, we really can't start a 3-to-1, we have to go a little 4-to-1 so you can get something in there. But yeah, it could be a berm, it could be anything.
I mean, the berm, the issue, so if you ran a berm along here, you get, the water's gonna come down the
Yeah, we gotta
slope, you gotta
catch it.
have a way of getting around it, you know, out there and
Gotta
things,
get it
but.
back up to here.
Out there, and you know, the base of the slope is gonna be some kind of riprap, you know, it's gonna be sort of a line of riprap along here, out there, which is gonna be sort of the anchor trench, which is just built off the road and built into the swale, so, you know, somehow those boulders would have to be configured around that, to make it work, but that's, I think this, trying to keep people out of it is the, you know, so again, you spend all this money on a cap, and some kid goes up there with a four-wheeler and does, you know, does donuts and things like that, so I think that's the intent of that, so.
Well, regardless, as far as my 2 cents goes, whatever you guys think, I'm good with boulders or whatever. I agree with the restricted access, so that's it.
Yeah, if we didn't put anything there, it would be.
Yeah, I think you just.
No maintenance. You don't have to worry about that for about 10,000 years.
Yeah,
right?
that's the other thing with
Right.
fences, is eventually something, you know, the sort of, the tree, you know, bushes grow up in between them, and you gotta maintain them, and that's.
Sorry, we've got a good landfill mower and maintainer.
He's doing a nice job. I was just out there
Yeah.
at the landfill today, so.
Keep them, because
Oh, yeah.
people are having a hard time finding those people out there, you know?
He's very good.
Yeah.
That's the thing with this. We want to encourage, some revenue coming in,
Mhm.
but we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot and then have a specialty contractor to mow it because it's so steep, like we're kind of facing on the other one. So
Yeah.
we're trying to find that balance.
Yeah, I think if you stick to the 3-to-1 slopes, that's sort of the standard landfill cap, you know, mowing out there, and there's not gonna be any, I'm familiar with the other one there. You know, again, and the other thing is all superficial drainage, you know, swales out there, none of the, you know, so that the downshoot pipes to get rid of the water, you know, should necessitate on the other one, but out there, so everything's gonna be a superficial swale coming
Comes right
along
along
here.
and just drops in,
out
so
there,
it's
so it's gonna be pretty
one swale to maintain, not,
easy for them to maintain
yeah,
out
not
there.
4. Like there's
Yeah,
another
oh yeah,
one.
no, they're out there. And again, it's, you know, it's more of a weed whacking exercise along some of the swales there than it is, you know, out there. You don't need to be a billy goat there.
So what do you need from us?
I don't need anything from you guys, as long as you, well, I guess, if you wanted to vote on, asking for an extension, you could do that. We can do it. I don't think we need a vote from you to do that.
I don't think we need a
We
vote
have
either.
we have an agreement with DEP, or you have an agreement, because they issued a approval of the comprehensive site assessment. Bruce and I will prepare 2 documents for them, one a request for an extension, and 2 a request to put in the gas points, just like we did with the test pits. We put it in, they have 30 days or 45 days to respond. They seem to respond right at the end.
All right, so
Which
Gary,
is
hold,
fine.
hold that thought. Kathy, do you have any concerns? Are you okay with the, moving forward with the gas testing and all that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're on board with that?
Yeah, that seems like the most reasonable and most safe way to do it, and why would we wanna try to backtrack a couple years from now,
Right.
right, so.
John, you're on board with that?
Yeah, as stated.
So we understand the reasoning for the extension, so let's just let nature take its course. We don't need a vote, go for it. We
Okay.
understand.
So, I'll run right into the other things with the landfill quickly. Second round of testing's going relatively well. We haven't had any dramatic changes other than one house, number 12 Old Town Road, went from 13 to 26.
Wow.
It's shocking how consistent most of the other houses are. 2.7 to 2.8, 6.3 to 6.9. I mean, and the ratio, everything's like, it's crazy how consistent most of them are. A few of them have bounced. You now are responsible for 3 homes with treatment systems that are going in, 138 and 151 Burlingame Road. Those are being installed on November 10th. The reason it's a little far out is the residents at 151 weren't available until then. I just met with the residents 2 hours ago at 138. We did our inspection, got everything, so we're ready to go, and she's available the same day. So we're gonna do 2 of them on the 11th, 10th or the 11th, is that Friday. And then Ralph at 12 Old Town, his is going in the Thursday before that. I wanna say November 2nd, next Thursday. Systems will go in. We're gonna let them run for a week, then we'll do the first testing to make sure everything's working correctly.
Just asking on those systems, Gary, who did you end up finding for a vendor?
We're using Cassidy Culligan. So there were 2, Cassidy Culligan was one, and the other one was Safewell. Very similar, Cassidy Culligan was a little bit better pricing, essentially the same product.
I'm just curious who you
So-
went with.
And we're gonna be able, efficiency, we were gonna do 3 in one day, but it didn't work to get 3 in the same day. So systems will be installed, testing will be done, we'll progress along. Bottled water, I need to reach out to DEP. Your office has already reached out to us and said, as soon as the system's going, I'm gonna stop the water. DEP is gonna require us to keep providing bottled water for a period of time till we document the systems are working. With PFAS, it's a little different. I need to find out what that period of time is, and I'll get that answer to you
Okay.
guys. I don't wanna misspeak on that, but we can't stop the water the day we get the systems installed. What we'll do, and that's why we wait about a week to make sure everything's working with tests, and then I'll notify the homeowners that it's working. And then it's their prerogative. If they choose not to drink the bottled water and use their own water, that's up to them, but we're gonna be obligated to at least provide it. You are up for the Q4 testing in the landfill in December, so we'll schedule that for early December. And that does include another round of PFAS testing. You're obligated to do 2. Now that you've had it and you've got the detection limit, the detections it's gonna be in the new program. When this landfill gets capped, one component of this is writing a post-closure monitoring plan. Bruce and I have been working on that and talking about that. One of the shocking things is all but 2 of the monitoring wells are actually installed through waste, which is not allowed, but it was allowed. So we're putting new monitoring wells in associated with this, and then there'll be semi-annual monitoring associated with that.
Gary, when you say we're testing Q4, is that for 54 or 90?
Both.
Both.
Both landfills.
Okay.
So that'll happen in early. The reason I'm telling you, I don't know what our next meeting will be, but just so you guys are aware that will be happening.
Okay.
And then we're continuing to do the testing. Homeowners have been great. I got my staff, we're becoming much more efficient. We're doing 3 and 4 and 5 at a time now because people are working together with us. Everybody's been really good as far as, we can call them, text them, email. Everybody wants a different response. I got a few that haven't been getting back to me. Not quite sure why, because they got to them for the first one, but I can't seem to get back to them. So we're gonna be in town tomorrow doing 4 of them, so we'll just stop and knock on the doors. But
Bring some cookies.
bring some cookies. So yeah, that's really all that I have to say about the monitoring programs, the IRA status plans. I do have one other thing to say. I'll show it to you, and this is a test.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, the one house that had such a significant jump, what would be the typical justification of that? Is it just the luck of the draw, or would there be a causation for it? Especially when the rest of them remain so similar.
I can't say that there's a causation. It seems a little weird
Okay.
that one has changed. Yeah, we don't have a good answer.
Alright.
And that, to be honest with you, that's why DEP mandated the town to provide bottled water at 2 when the drinking water standard is 20, because we just don't have enough data and experience with it's stable, it's not stable, it's moving. Keep in mind, this stuff doesn't change, so it shouldn't really be changing. But when a lab is detecting down at that low levels, you can get a little fluctuation, but 13 to 26, that's a pretty good fluctuation.
Yeah.
It's some of those other numbers, that's just the lab, that's
Yeah,
just, there's
the-
just a
the-
little fluctuation within the data there, so.
So one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is this 500-foot radius. As everyone is aware here, each time we get a detection, we have to go another 500 feet.
Yep.
We've talked in detail that I'm not convinced that all of these detections are related to the landfill. I've said that to you guys, and I'll say that to the public. I'm not convinced that they're all directly related. I don't have any data to 100% support that they're not. So right now, the position is they're related to the landfill. What we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out a way, and we've been working on it. And this is absolutely, and I'm just showing this to you guys for pain, but we're actually graphing and charting and trying to figure out trends and things as what's going on. And my point of showing this to you guys is it doesn't show an obvious picture. However, I think we've kind of come up with somewhat of an obvious picture in that there's about 4 or 5 prevalent PFAS-6 compounds in the landfill and in about 5 or 6 homes. There is 1 prevalent compound in about 10 homes that has nothing else. So that 1 appears to be an outlier because it's just 1 PFAS-6 compound, whereas the landfill's got 5 consistent PFAS-6 compounds at relatively consistent ratios. And those few homes have pretty similar to that. Not exact, but pretty similar. And then you've got 10 homes that just have this 1 compound. And this 1 compound, for example, there's 2 prevalent, very prevalent compounds. And the 2 prevalent compounds, one's say 60%, one's 40%. The homes that only have 1, they might have 1 at 10. So 40, the other one should be there at 8. It's not there. And we know the lab can detect down to 2. So that fingerprint's different. What I'm talking about here in all this, we are getting prepared to send a letter to DEP saying, if it's this fingerprint, we're not going to extend the 500-foot radius. If it's this fingerprint, we're going to extend the 500-foot radius. So we're going to make that technical argument to DEP pretty soon. We have to. We will be testing
Up to the Dudley line.
The
Yeah.
whole town, yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, it's nowhere near as clear as I thought it was originally. And one of the guys in my office is ready. He was like coming to my office, literally banging his head on the wall, saying, "Oh!" So like, well, let's try this. Let's look at it this way. It's not a really obvious trend, but there is enough of a trend with that 1 compound versus those 5.
Gary, question. Do we have test results now that we're awaiting on new homes?
We always have test results that we're awaiting. Yeah, we do.
On new homes?
New homes. Oh, that's a good point. Yes, just a couple. And the new ones. Did I do 40? Did I get that one back? I think I have 144 back on Burlingame. I don't know if I have 153. There might be 1 more pending. We had talked last time. I don't. On Burlingame Road, we're getting out to where the homes are farther apart. So The last detection that we had, the 138, didn't trigger a new radius. That was in an earlier radius, and we tripped that one, and it didn't trigger a new radius. Just the last two sitting on the end. I want to say 144. No, I can't remember the number off the top of my head. 153 rings a bell. I don't remember if I got that data back yet. But we do have data coming back all the time. But yeah, the only new ones would be those.
Yeah, I'm just curious, obviously, on the new trip on the
Yes.
500 foot.
Yeah.
So.
We're not, when I called, so we don't have to notify DEP if it's below 20. If it's above 20, that's a new 2-hour condition I need to notify. And I've made those notifications with you guys' approval.
Mm-hmm.
Inevitably, when I make that notification, Rachel's first comment is, what's the 500-foot radius? I said, we've checked it, it doesn't change. So fortunately, the above 20s haven't changed the 500-foot radius. The detections we're driving the radius, but we haven't gotten anything further yet. So that's where that sits right now. And like I said, the one at number 12 was well inside. We'd already been like 2 500s beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have we had 3 13s in that area.
Mm.
So, are there any specific questions? I'm here as long as you want.
Do we need to vote on this as far as the slope and so forth?
I think the three of us at least need to discuss it, John, because we haven't really voiced our opinions on that.
Yeah, because I would think that you guys would want to, if we can say, go with this, then you're good and you can start doing a lot more work.
Why don't we? My biggest concern about that was twofold. One was going to be a ginormous eyesore and potential property values deflating for the residents. I don't feel that is the case as far as being an eyesore. In fact, it's probably going to be an improvement because this thing's going to be maintained and whatnot. But so that was one of my concerns, and the other one was the environmental squish conversation that we had, and I feel satisfied that we're not, making things worse there. So I like this concept. I think it's if Bruce, you're satisfied with it and you think that is the happy medium that makes, the most sense, I'm on board with that if Gary feels that way. So, John, what's your comments?
I echo your comments. I like this. I like the fact that it's less of a slope. It's only raising 19 feet maximum. It's a gentler slope going down to the street. And the town could potentially get just shy of $1 million off the cost.
Potentially, yeah. There's-
Potentially.
Catherine, what's your...
I think that you're absolutely on the money about the safety of it. I think the safety concerns are well addressed within the design from, my limited perspective. I am concerned, as you said, about the eyesore situation. So I'm, the fence thing, we'll talk about boulders, right? You'll talk about, like you said, like flowers, whatever you're going to do up there. But is there anything that we can do to ensure that their property isn't going to depreciate more than what we've already discussed? That's the only question I have.
So mine, and this was just me thinking this through, because it's like we want to maximize the dollars coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, I mean, the town needs money for everything, schools,
Yeah.
everything. So, but at the same token, you don't want to take away property values and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I've been thinking it through, and for me, unfortunately, it's just how I thought it through. But worst case scenario, and this is going to be a terrible eyesore, and this is going to look terrible, and and the property value goes down and down and down. And I don't think that's the case, but I'm just saying,
Sure.
assuming that was the case, and now we decide we're not going to go up and take in all this dirt, I would want to have, I don't have a comment on it, but I'd want to have a very, very good conversation amongst the board,
Yeah.
because whatever the residents are, 13,000 in the town or plus or minus whatever, I feel like we owe an obligation to the town as a whole, and so to not bring in significant dollar value to help the town as a whole for a couple of houses, even if it was 20, which it's not, but I'm just saying, it's like, I'm kind of like, you know what I mean? So for me, yeah, I want to bring in the maximum amount of dollars. I don't want to have the town have a burden of over mowing and finding a contractor that won't mow this or maintain this out in the future. And I also feel like that we're obligated for at least the next 30 years to maintain and mow this thing. And I just don't feel like it's going to be an eyesore. I personally don't think it's going to bring the property values down at all as far as looking at it.
Sure.
I do question the contamination in the ground, but that ship has sailed and there's nothing we can do at this point to change that. So I feel good with this concept plan, and I really don't think we're jeopardizing those residents at all from a cosmetic point of view. So
So this is a concept plan. I think we can go back and take a look at ways to maybe soften some slopes and things like that that would be less, again, it's aesthetic, it's a visual, improvements out there, and the stones and things like that along there and things.
And
I
to
think
add, this is, you use the term maximize revenue. We can make this steeper, we can make this taller, we can put retaining walls around it, we can get much more revenue. It will be very ugly
Yeah.
and very expensive.
Right, yeah.
This is, Bruce and the team came up with a reasonable maximization of it.
yes.
And I think what Bruce is saying, we can soften things a little here and there, but yes, it still gets that maximum amount without getting out of control. And I wish I could think of an example of one, and maybe I'll try to be cognizant of it in the next 3 weeks while I'm driving around, because we go by a lot of landfills, but it's gonna be maintained. And it's gonna look like that.
To echo your point, I guess what I'm kind of struggling with is, right, like, we have an obligation as a town, and we need to make sure that we're financially responsible. Absolutely. But if I was the homeowner sitting staring across at this for, the next 20 years, right, like, what makes it a less, for lack of better terms, a less crappy situation, right? Like, what makes this not so awful? But again, with the true end of the day mindset being, what's the best for the whole town, right? So I guess it's a balance. I'm just trying to figure out,
And I struggled with the same thing, and that's why we talked about it out loud. I've had some time to think about it, and it's listen, I don't live in those houses, so
Right.
it's easy for me to sit here and say it's going to look fine, but the reality of it is, I do think it will look fine. I see plenty of hills, landfills. I see one up in Haverhill. That thing's pretty steep. It's mowed. You drive by it. It doesn't.
That's multiple times bigger than this.
Yeah.
Out there. So yeah.
The one in Shrewsbury on Route 20,
Yep.
that's gotta be 50 feet
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, the one in
Right
Chicopee,
off the
the one in
road.
Chicopee, that's 100 feet, 80 feet high.
Yeah,
This is,
Chicopee's huge.
so the other thing to think about here is, right now, it's trees and they're pretty nice, they're changing colors, they're pretty. Even if you made it flat, it's not gonna be trees. It's not gonna be trees.
It's going to be green.
So,
Yeah.
it's gonna be green. So,
And the whole edge along the roadway is going to look pretty much the same whether you have, again, just beyond, just along that edge, and then it's going to go either up or, it's always going to go up a little bit out
Right.
there, up there, just to get the grade out, but.
So Gary, what else did you need from us? Because we're good with the extension. I think all three of us accept this concept plan as far as using it as a template to.
do you guys
move
wanna
forward.
make a vote? Do you wanna formalize the fact that you're good with this concept plan, just so that it's documented for us, documented for you, in case, or do you want?
Do you
it's
have a plan and date number on this?
This is L1, and the most recent date is November of 2023.
Yeah, it's supposed to be going up.
All right, so we're looking at a plan
Final
drawn
grading
by,
plan.
it's a final grading plan, draft plan of 54 Old Flint Road, drawn by JEC, checked by BWH, dated November of 2023. That's a little, we're not in November yet.
Yeah, it just was
It's
dated
straight-
that
it's
way because
straight,
it's supposed to go
it's
in next month. It's
I
a
get
draft
you, I
application.
get you.
It's a draft plan.
Okay.
So can we change the date on this?
Yeah.
Is that we'll do that.
I'll change it right now to October.
Yeah, that's fine.
And give the day. Just go 10/24,
Yeah.
10/24/23, and that, this will be known as that whatever revision or the original.
Yeah. And again, this is subject to change.
Subject to
Could go up a little bit,
change.
Could go down a little bit, could go left, could go right, this is gonna change.
Yeah, this is.
But the
concept.
general concept that you guys wanna get some fill in there.
All right,
Yeah.
so basically, we're looking for a motion to approve the draft plan drawn from JEC, checked by Bruce Haskell, dated today, 10/24/23, as a preliminary template plan, subject to some modifications down the road, but generally speaking, we're gonna go forward with the plan as shown here. Is there a second for that motion?
I second that motion. Do I have to repeat the whole thing?
All in favor? No.
That's why I wasn't.
So there's a motion, there's a second, all in favor?
Aye.
So yeah, Bruce, Gary, we can move forward with that.
Gary and Bruce.
Gary, yeah, no, I'm gonna move forward with it there, so, out there.
Yeah, that's just, I formalized it for everybody, so.
Yeah, that's good.
I think this would also not only help you guys, but also DEP, if they can say, oh, this is what they're going with, okay,
That's
here's
why
what we
we'll
could,
make
and it's progress too. I think DEP likes the fact that we're not dragging our feet, we're trying to.
No, I
Get
think,
this
you know,
thing
you got the
moving.
November date, we're gonna ask, again, we got the test pit data. Literally, we got an email at 4:30 today out there saying,
Okay.
what are you gonna do along Flint Road out there? And so, I didn't respond, so I said, well, I'm about to get in the car and
Yeah,
and find out out there. So, and again, we'll come back with some of the details along Flint Road, because I think that's what people are gonna see is when you drive along the road. The difference is gonna be now, it's just a overgrown fence and trees out there. It's gonna look different there.
yeah, but a lot, like, if the gas monitoring situation comes back hot, and we have to modify that for trench work or whatever it's gonna take, that comes first, right?
Right.
Safety,
that's-
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what you
that's
gotta
what
do,
we gotta
so-
do, is to try to avoid that migration out there and stuff, so that becomes a,
We gotta kind of get that box checked and see what's gonna happen there, and then we can worry about the boulders and the bushes
Yeah,
or
that's
whatnot.
what it looks like.
What it looks like.
We're capping it for a reason,
Right.
to protect it
Yeah.
Right,
and reduce the concentrations of contaminants.
right, exactly.
Anything else on this?
That's all I have. Quick update, the new landfill is 90% mowed.
Good.
Bruce had been, had tried three times, but it's just been so wet that he was damaging the turf, so he stopped. Thank goodness. I just went on it today and he's got 90% of it done. Looks
Nice.
good. So it'll probably be one mowing this year. I told him, we'll work, because you have a contract with him for 2 mowings. But I said, if it, one may take a little bit longer, you're not gonna get paid for, you're not gonna charge for 2 full mowings. But might be 1 plus, or might be just 1, I don't know. It'll depend on how it comes out at the end of the day. But I told him just get it stable so that grass will continue to grow, and make a good point of not leaving piles of hay up there, and he did a nice job. He's very good. I highly recommend you keep him.
Yeah, I think that's,
keep it.
that's
I
well
can
understood.
tell you, I do the Worcester landfill, it's off 146 and Route 20, and they struggle to find people, and it takes them, and again, it's a much bigger site out there to mow, and it takes them forever, and there's always issues out there. There's always, like, I was out there, and there's an area where they just drove through a wet spot, and, they just, made a mess out of everything out there that we gotta fix, so.
We had a company come out from the Midwest. They had the slope mowers and all this, and they did some scalping, and they didn't do us any favors at all.
The remote control mowing company, have you seen them?
Yes, I've
It's
seen
actually
that.
really cool.
Yeah.
I went out there and watched them, but it was a disaster.
It was a
Yeah.
They
disaster.
created a problem, and believe it or not, we never paid them a penny.
Never paid them, and then they had
Really?
to pay to fix the.
It was a
the-
Yeah, but they never did.
Yeah.
They never
didn't?
paid that. They
No.
never paid that. No.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was not a good.
Yeah, no, it's hard, if you find somebody who does a good job out there, because the 2 biggest issues are just damage, and then they don't show up. out
Right.
there. They don't do it, and then you're 2 years out, and you've got tree, the further along it goes,
Sure.
the more problems you get out there and stuff, so.
Yeah, no, you're doing. You
Yeah,
gotta look
yeah,
at it.
somebody who's good.
When do you guys need to be back here to see us again, just so we know?
Probably we're gonna. Probably by the time we get the gas, it's probably gonna be January.
Yeah, I think we have the gas data out there, I think that would be a good time to come in and we will have thought through some of these things are irrespective of the gas, but some of them we'll have thought through all that and be able to come in and say, here's what's going on, because I think.
We'll probably have this pushed over, we'll have this figured out, we'll have some
well,
more information.
Much more advanced, concept plan there, more, volume, some ideas.
Good, so you don't have to know when we're meeting next month.
Oh, I'm sure you're gonna tell me and I'll
Yeah,
be careful.
Well, we don't have to worry about Bruce.
Me, okay.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a
till
lot of stuff
January.
up there, but.
No, if you know what, yeah, I'll absolutely be here.
So if there's no more discussion on the landfill, you guys can be excused, hit the road, whatever.
Yeah.
We're
Go
good.
Take all the cookies and go?
Take 'em.
One or two.
There was more at the beginning of the meeting.
Wait those cookies.
Well, he's on video.
It's all on video.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on the agenda for us, or are we off?
That was it.
That's
Okay,
it.
great.
Thank you
Thanks.
both for
Good-
coming.
Good to see you
See you.
again.
Very
Take
informative.
care.
Yeah, and just let me know when the next one is, I'll be here.
Okay. Hopefully you're not on a cruise like Jim. Huh?
Actually, is he,
I
yeah.
wonder where he was here. So. All right, great. Oh, no, I'm all set. I'm gonna grab some, I guess.
All right, moving on, the next line item would be, take it, Gary.
I got one for you. I left you a copy.
Okay, great.
It's same and it's stamped and I changed the date.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just thought the date was important on that.
Yes, because you don't want somebody coming back and saying, well, wait a minute, no, that's not what this says. How do we know it's the same one?
Right,
It also
just-
opens up for changes prior to November 1st.
Yeah, we just kind of locked it in based
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that, so. I've run into that in the past, and dates, to me, are very important on
Sure.
things like that. Okay, let's see. Other business unknown at the time of posting. I don't have anything. John, go ahead.
Well, department head reports with Kim here. Kim, are you filling in for Jim for department head?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I just was going to mention there was one new detection. I think it was 144 that Gary got at the end of last week. So he delivered water, and we set up delivery on Monday. Andrea's doing a great job dealing with. I think we're up to 20-something homes that we're getting
Wow.
watered to. So it's
Just for this? the
just
old
for
way.
this. So it's a lot of deciding how many people are in the home, how much water do you go through, how frequently do you want it. So it's a lot of work, but she's doing great. We got them set up quickly. We have a direct contact now, which is making it a lot easier. Before it was a lot of back and forth being on hold with customer service with Ready Refresh. So it's a smoother process now, and Gary's great at notifying us. We have the stockpile of water over at the DPW, which is making it easier too, so we don't have to go out and buy water each time we get a new detection. We have a stockpile of 5-gallon jugs and cases of the 16-ounce waters. It got pretty depleted, but I think Andrea just ordered some more, so that will be refilled. And the only other thing I was going to mention is that Seth LaJoy reached out today. He's going to be seeking variances for wells, and so he was looking to get added to the next agenda for wells being less than 25 feet from the road due to size constraints.
Why does that name
On the
sound
lot.
familiar?
Seth, he does most of the plans for Jennings. These are 3 properties
okay.
on Jennings, so that's
that's
probably why.
He
Yeah.
used to live up the street. Maybe he still does. Okay, that's
Yeah,
right.
so that's just a heads up for the
That's-
next meeting. He wants to come
Okay.
to seek those variances, and that was it.
25 feet from the edge of the road.
Yeah, I think that it's supposed to be 25 feet from the road,
Mhm.
and he's looking to do. I think it's around 10 feet.
Okay.
So he wants to come and state the case.
All right. So yes, we can put them on the agenda.
Okay, perfect.
So anything else on the department head reports?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Let's then move on to determine the next Board of Health meeting.
3 weeks? 4
To you.
weeks? Let's see what Kate's schedule has. For,
Either one works, whatever you would like.
Then we can go for it? Would that put, well, wait a minute.
That's
would that
the
put
week
us
of
in-
Thanksgiving,
That's the
which
week,
is fine, I mean, but it's either the 14th or the 21st then.
I would go with the 14th because I'm not going to be in good shape on that.
You want to go November 14th?
14.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
it.
November 14th.
I'm good with that because it's still been pretty hot with the detections, and if there's another results awaiting on a new testing out there, just be good to know.
Well, that way we can get this potential well variance issue
Yeah.
resolved too, and
Yeah.
help move them along so that we're not holding them up.
All right, so, next meeting is, at this point, we'll pencil it in for 11/14/23. Next line item, reorganization of the board. We mentioned it a few times, but basically, what happens is we shift, every annual election, we shift positions, and this position, as of today, would have been our past board member Pete Lancette, who went off to go be on the select board and leave us in the corner, which was fine. So what we did was, basically, we took his 1 year's worth of being chairman, we chopped it in half. At the time, I was the chair, so what we figured was I would extend my term for an additional 6 months as the chair, and then in 6 months' time, John would be the chair next. He would start his position 6 months early, and that's where we are now. So I'd like to make I'd like to see if somebody will make a motion to reorganize the board, and it would go, moving forward, it would be, John would be the chair. How would this be then? I would be,
You know, I didn't even think that far.
well,
Well, you would be vice chair because it's your first year as member.
okay, so I'd be vice,
Yeah.
and Catherine would remain member.
Right,
So you and me are switching.
that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion to do the change as you suggested, with John becoming the chair and you becoming the vice chair.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Am I allowed to vote on that?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I guess because otherwise it would just be her. because-
Yeah, right.
Well, all three of us can vote. on it.
Yeah, I know.
So there's a second.
Second.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So you're now the chair. So with that, you can handle the last line item.
That's right.
Yeah. See if my watch is correct. It should be. We'll adjourn the meeting then. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7:03. Thank you very much, everyone.